process and then have the committee make a determination and have the Senate vote.
Senator Spector says he anticipates the new nominee will have more of a judicial record and philosophy for senators to study before the hearings. While members of Congress await word of the next high court nominee, many are calling on the administration to look deeper into the leak and cover-up of CIA agent Valerie Plane's identity. Democratic Senator Harry Reid and Charles Schumer debated the issue on the Sunday morning talk shows.
There has not been an apology to the American people for this obvious problem in the White House.
So the president should apologize.
He should apologize. The vice president should apologize. They should come clean with the American public. I think Karl Rove should step down.
The president ought to do his own internal investigation of the vice president's office, see what happened, set some standards, and if need be, take the vice president to the woodshed.
Vice President Dick Cheney's chief of staff, Louis Libby, now faces obstruction of justice and perjury charges for his role in the scandal. Presidential advisor Karl Rove has been implicated but not charged, although the investigation remains open. In South Florida, the recovery from Hurricane Wilma is slow at best. Residents are tired of life without power and increasingly gas. Trish Regan reports.
While tens of thousands of Floridians spend hours in line waiting for a little water, a hot meal, and a few bags of ice, just a couple of miles away in Miami Beach, well-heeled residents are checking into plush beachside resorts.
While some people's lives have returned to somewhat normal, others are still struggling with the basics. But there is one thing that they all have in common here, and that's this: long lines at the gas pumps.
When we first met Pasha Waters, it was 1:30 in the afternoon, and she was at the end of the line and near the end of her rope.
And how long do you think you're going to be waiting?
I hope probably about an hour.
Okay, that's not bad. People have been waiting much longer.
I got to get to work.
Pasha is struggling to balance getting to work, raising her 7-year-old son, and waiting in what seems like an endless line.
Gas stuck.
But the problem isn't the gas. There's 190 million gallons of it in Florida ports. The problem is getting the pumps turned on when nearly half of southern Florida is still without electricity.
Come on back, sir.
Adrian Palmer runs a Shell station. He says long lines are unavoidable when power is out.
Do you wish you had a generator?
Oh, yeah. But a generator to run this is like $20,000. And the oil companies maybe don't want to spend $20,000.
Florida Power and Light has made getting gas stations back online its #1 priority. Less than an hour later, she filled up and headed to work, hoping she'd seen the last of the lines that symbolize Florida's frustration. Trish Regan, CBS News, Miami.
Commuting to work and school this morning will likely be a nightmare for nearly 500,000 people in Philadelphia, where the unions controlling the subways, buses, and trolleys have decided to strike. The issues in dispute include wages, work rules, and health care. We're back in 2 minutes.
How far would you go to help someone? Would you go to the end of your driveway? Would you cross a street? Would you cross an ocean? Would you go if you could use your knowledge to teach someone? And in the process, maybe learn something yourself. Life is calling. How far will you go? Peace Corps.
Sometimes my burdens get so heavy, and it seems too hard to bear. Sometimes I feel so empty, and the pain is getting old. And you know the rain won't last forever.
Hurricane Katrina displaced hundreds of thousands of school children. School districts throughout America are enrolling students from the Gulf Coast, helping them to maintain a sense of normal life. the U.S. Department of Education started Hurricane Help for Schools to help meet the needs of these school districts and students affected by Katrina. To find out how you can help, please visit www.ed.gov and click on to Hurricane Help for Schools.
It's 10 past the hour. 34-year-old Staff Sergeant George Alexander, the 2,000th U.S. service member to die in the war in Iraq, was laid to rest in his hometown of Clanton, Alabama over the weekend. Thalia Shuris takes a look at the life he left behind.
To the country he served, Staff Sergeant George T. Alexander Jr.'s legacy will be a number, but not to the family who loved him.
He was mine, and that was my only son that I have.
Joseph Spence helped raise Alexander and remembers a selfless son.
He just made things laugh for other people. You know, if he just, when people down sad, he just made them say something funny to make things get jolly, you know.
Alexander grew up in Clanton, Alabama, a small peach farming community between Birmingham and Montgomery. Shortly after graduating from Chilton County High School in 1989, he joined the Army.
George was probably the skinniest guy in the senior class. He was a fun-loving guy, would do most anything for anybody. All you had to do was ask.
But 2,000 is not the only number that defines this young American. There's 9, the number of times Alexander served in the region, going back to the first Gulf War. 3 for each tour of duty in the current Iraq conflict. Alexander died from injuries suffered in an explosion near his Bradley fighting vehicle. His family was told he had been trying to save his fellow soldiers. There's the number 2 for the children that this father and husband leaves behind. And to those most affected by his life, George Alexander will always be number 1.
I imagine if he had to say it himself, he would say he wasn't a hero. He was just serving his country. But to me, he was a hero.
Thalia Shuris, CBS News, New York. As the violence drags on in Iraq, there's a mystery involving several journalists detained by the U.S. military. One of them, an Iraqi cameraman working for CBS News. Richard Roth reports.
On assignment for CBS News last April, Abdul Amir Hussein was videotaping the aftermath of this suicide car bombing when he was shot and wounded by U.S. forces. They said his camera had been mistaken for a weapon. But while treating his injuries in a military hospital, the Army put him under arrest. Officials claimed his video, taken so soon after the attack, suggested he was working with insurgents. There have been claims he's implicated in other ways. But the Pentagon's refused to reveal any evidence at all to CBS or Abdul Amir, who's now been held more than 6 months.
All we're asking for is to find out why he's being held and why his colleagues from other news organizations are being held under similar circumstances.
They now include a correspondent for the satellite TV network Al Arabiya, a French press agency reporter, and 2 Iraqi cameramen working for Reuters, which fears the military's punishing newsmen for doing their jobs.
The detentions have me very worried because they seem to result in immediately after soldiers saw images on the cameras, immediately after they saw what these people had reported, and the military seemed to get angry about that, and that's why these people were detained.
And they're subject to the same closed tribunals and open-ended confinement as the more than 10,000 others the U.S. holds.
Everybody that we have detained and will detain, we detain for a specific reason.
Officials claim insurgents may be posing as journalists, though they've offered no proof. The U.S. military spokesman in Baghdad asked if professional journalists detained while working in a war zone ought to be treated as a special case, said no.
What we got to do is look at the individual that was indeed detained and what was he doing regardless of what his profession was.
I do think that the people covering this war should be given at least, if not the benefit of the doubt, the benefit of a speedy resolution of these cases. And the American public has an interest in the matter.
That's because in a place that's considered the world's most dangerous assignment, Western news organizations rely heavily on local employees. Most of these images coming from Iraq come from the cameras of Iraqis. News executives say they're crucial to giving Americans a wider view of the war that's cost more than 2,000 U.S. lives and billions of dollars. And citing the freedoms America says it's fighting for in Iraq, they've called on the Pentagon to make the evidence public and put their employees on trial, or set them free. Richard Roth, CBS News, London.
With recent polls showing President Bush's approval rating hovering around 40%, we have a follow-up visit with some voters as we near an important anniversary. John Roberts reports.
It was a year ago this week that voters sent President Bush back to the White House.
I earned capital in the campaign, political capital, and now I intend to spend it.
Two of the people who gave him that capital are Terry and Dwayne Tweedy, conservative voters from St. Petersburg, Florida. We met them right before the election.
I believe he's done as good a job as anybody could do under the circumstances.
I would give him an A. Probably an A minus.
Another strong supporter was Anne Marie Berg of Ossining, New York. In particular, she liked the president's policies in Iraq.
I feel that strongly that if we do not do this, we will not have our freedom.
With Republicans in charge in Congress, they had high hopes for the president's second term. But those expectations are in danger of becoming casualties of current events.
Things are a little crazy right now.
Crazy might be putting it lightly.
Today, I accepted the resignation of Scooter Libby.
A top White House official indicted. A derailed Supreme Court nomination. A disastrous response to Hurricane Katrina. And growing doubts about the Iraq War. A terrible couple of months by any measure. So what do the Tweedies and Berg think now?
I think the country is at a crossroads at this point.
Despite the loss of more than 2,000 American soldiers, Berg still believes in the Iraq mission.
I stand behind the decision. Does that mean I want war? No, I don't want war. And I don't want anyone to lose their life. But I feel that the terrorism has to be stopped.
The Tweedies have their doubts about the case for war, but haven't given up either.
Every time President Bush speaks about it, what he says is, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. He's never fibbed to us about that.
For them, the CIA leak investigation is an unnecessary distraction.
It means nothing to the public. They really don't care.
What do they care about? The Supreme Court vacancy for one. They thought Harriet Miers was the wrong choice.
She realized it wasn't the right thing and just to move on.
Let's make certain we have the best person for the job.
They also share a deep concern about the president's priorities. Most important to them, health care.
To me, it's as important or more important than the Social Security issue, and nobody seems to be addressing it.
A year ago, it seemed a second term full of possibility for these staunch Bush supporters. His performance matched the promise.
I think he's trying as hard as he can, but because of the whole political situation, his hands are tied.
Is he shining on every issue? No. Is he doing the best he can? Yeah, in a lot of areas.
We asked our American Voices to grade the president's second term so far. Anne Marie Berg gives Mr. Bush a C+. Terry and Dwayne Tweedy, they still give him an A-. John Roberts, CBS News, New York.
And we'll be right back.
Brad, you still need to choose a Medicare drug plan.
Oh, the big fight's about to start.
Well, you don't want a big fight to start in here, do you? Besides, you could be saving money.
Wait just a minute. How much?
Says here Pacificare could save you hundreds, even thousands of dollars.
Thousands?
One thing the good old days didn't have is Medicare drug coverage. Now, if you're Medicare eligible, Prescription Solutions from Pacificare makes the new drug coverage even better, offering a variety of plans starting under $23 a month in many states, with no $250 Medicare plan deductible. Call us anytime, 24 hours a day to get our free prescription drug plan information kit.
Say, Brad, you can even choose popular brand name drugs.
But generics are cheaper.
Well, they've got those too.
So I get to choose for myself?
Yep,
They don't tell me what to do?
that's right.
Well, that'll be a refreshing change.
Oh, Brad.
At Pacificare, we believe freedom is the best medicine. That's why we offer multiple plans, starting under $23 a month in many states. Plus, all of our plans save you Medicare's $250 plan deductible. Call now to get started. Our sales specialists are ready to help you choose the plan that's right for you and send you this free prescription drug plan information kit with no obligation. It contains a helpful organizer as well as details on how Medicare Part D works and how Pacificare makes it better.
Look, you can save even more with home delivery. That ought to be right up your alley.
Where? I don't see that.
It's right there. Lucky for you, they have additional vision programs, too.
In addition to our Medicare drug plans, Pacificare also offers dental and vision programs starting at just $5 a month. Another way to give you the freedom to choose. Call now to learn how to get coverage starting January 1st. If Fred could have done it, he would have.
High-speed police chases. His daughter was killed in one. Now he's on a crusade to stop them. Eye on America, tonight on the CBS Evening News with Bob Sheever. Experience you can trust.
This week, when these neighbors got catty, the fur began to fly.
Have your neighbors become your enemies?
Think you've heard bad neighbor stories? Wait until you hear these. And the Royals begin their United States tour. We'll have a revealing look inside the lives of Prince Charles and Camilla, plus the Survivor cast-off and secret scenes you've never seen on The Early Show.
High-speed police chases. A crusade to stop them on tonight's CBS Evening News.
It's now 20 past the hour. Top stories on Up to the Minute. The body of civil rights pioneer Rosa Parks will lie in state in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda through this morning, the first woman ever to be so honored. President Bush is expected to announce a new nominee for the Supreme Court today. On the short list, federal appeals judges Samuel Alito and Michael Luttig. And nearly 500,000 Philadelphia commuters are without public transportation this morning after thousands of transit workers walked off the job, idling buses, trolleys, and subways. Washington, D.C. will soon be in for some royal pomp and ceremony. CBS's Bill Plant reports.
There have been times when celebrities from Britain generated electric excitement on this side of the Atlantic. Well, the British are coming again. But this visit is a little more subdued. Prince Charles and his recent bride Camilla are making their first official trip overseas as husband and wife. In an interview with 60 Minutes correspondent Steve Croft, the heir to the British throne joked about the long gap between his visits to this former colony of the crown.
You're about to go to the United States. Should we do something to offend you 20 years ago that it's taking you that long to get back?
You don't want to see me all the time. You get bored.
But perhaps there's another reason. Americans loved Princess Diana, Charles's late ex-wife. And on this visit, there will be no one to upstage His Highness. Camilla will be seen, but mostly not heard.
She's not interested in fame and celebrity. She's interested in, really, frankly, standing by her man.
In the Bush White House, formal dinners are few, but the royal couple will be entertained at both lunch and dinner in their honor. But even in Washington, not exactly an outpost of haute couture, few expect Camilla to dazzle the natives with her fashion sense.
She's a very, British kind of personality.
And it's doubtful that Camilla could ever pull this off. Remember this famous photo? Princess Diana dancing with John Travolta the last time Charles was a guest at the White House.
I have a feeling that there will be absolutely no dancing with celebrities.
Not much chance of that. This royal visit is carefully planned to be very low-key. But low-key or not, there's still plenty of people carefully checking their mail, hoping for an invitation. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Here's your Monday morning forecast. The latest satellite picture shows thick storm clouds sweeping over the northwest. The southwest remains clear. Skies are gray across the Great Lakes and much of the Midwest, while it's clear for most of the East Coast. Later today, the east remains sunny and mild, setting up a perfect night for trick-or-treating. Showers will spread from Texas to Michigan. It also looks like it'll be a pretty soggy Halloween for much of the Northwest. In sports, it was an emotional and overwhelming victory for the New York Giants as they paid tribute to their late owner, Wellington Mara, just days after his death. New York hosted the Redskins Sunday. Tiki Barber silenced the Skins with a 58-yard run on the first play. He finished with a career-high 206 yards and a touchdown. Washington's entire team was held to just 125 yards and had 4 turnovers. Giants got their first shutout in 7 years, 36-0. They now lead the NFC East. In Denver, it was the Philadelphia Eagles who were in danger of a shutout. The Broncos scored 28 unanswered points in the first half. Philly rallied in the second half behind QB Donovan McNabb and got within 7, but Denver turned the tide and won 49-21. And at Foxborough, Patriot fans welcome back linebacker Teddy Bruschi, who played for the first time since a stroke almost 9 months ago. Trailing 16-14 with about 6 minutes left, New England stripped the ball from Kelly Holcomb to gain possession, which led to a Corey Dillon touchdown. Pats won it 21-16.
Close to hitting the ground. Dillon. Touchdown! What a turnaround for the New England Patriots!
It looked like a...
I'm still here for my kids.
Luke is still here to make us happy.
I'm still here to make beautiful music.
With the help of the National Marrow Donor Program, thousands are still here to celebrate another day. Find out how you can create connections and save lives. You never know who will still be here because of you.
I'm Bramford Marcellus. Coming from a family of musicians born and raised in New Orleans, my heart goes out to all the people along the Gulf Coast whose lives have been forever changed by Hurricane Katrina. Please join me and Habitat for Humanity in Operation Home Delivery. New Orleans and our Gulf Coast have a proud history, and we'll recover with your help. Donate, volunteer, get involved. Visit Habitat.org.
Help victims of Hurricane Katrina and thousands of other disasters across the country each year.
Stargazers are getting an up-close glimpse of a planet. Mars spent the weekend visiting Earth's neighborhood, well, within 41 million miles anyway. You can see it by looking in the eastern sky around sunset. The red planet appears as a bright yellow point of light. While we enjoy the view of the fourth rock from the sun, astronomers are still debating whether the discovery of a 10th object is a planet at all. Jerry Bowen reports.
When Caltech astronomer Michael Brown isn't orbiting around his new daughter Lila, he's scanning the overnights, the latest telescopic images from deep space, still savoring his eureka moment of last January.
I think I first sat up and then I immediately grabbed the phone and called my wife and told her I'd found the 10th planet.
A bright dot in a field of dots.
It's barely moving, but you can clearly see that it's moving across there. And so as soon as I saw that, we knew we were onto something really big.
Very big. Bigger than Pluto, the 9th planet discovered in 1930, and very far away, 9 billion miles from the sun on a 560-year-long orbit, and very confusing.
Mars, Jupiter, Earth.
Not just for kids trying to memorize all the others, but for astronomers who contend Pluto never should have been named a planet, and neither should this newcomer.
Almost everyone I know who's in love with Pluto, and then I tell them how tiny it is, they said, I didn't know that. Nobody told me that. I tell them that our moon is bigger than Pluto. Nobody told me that.
Back at Caltech, astronomer Brown defends his new baby, less for scientific than sentimental reasons.
People really love Pluto. They want Pluto to be a planet. If people want to call Pluto a planet, then they should call Pluto a planet. And if they want to call Pluto a planet, they should call bigger things a planet also.
And if it is a planet, what does it mean to the world's second oldest profession, astrology? How will it affect cosmic readings? Does it mean the daily horoscope's been off by one planet all these years?
It's just kind of like when new medical discoveries are made, it doesn't throw out everything we already knew.
An international committee of astronomers is still deciding if number 10 is a planet, and then another committee will give it a name. Brown figures his other baby may be in college by then, so he went ahead on his own.
There are definitely some people who wish that we would call it by its official name, which is 2003 UB313. But that's 9 syllables too many for me, so we're going to still call it Xena until they give it a real name.
An orbiting ice ball named for a warrior princess. Call him goofy, but this is one astronomer who makes the heavens seem very down to earth. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Pasadena.
And we thank you for orbiting with us this half hour. This is CBS News up to the minute.
For news 24 hours a day, log on to cbsnews.com. Experience CBS News.
It's Monday, October 31st. From CBS News in New York City, I'm Melissa McDermott. Straight ahead in this half hour.
And when she saw the column, what was her reaction?
She felt like she'd been hit in the stomach. It took her breath away. She recovered quickly because, of course, you don't do what she did for a living without understanding stress. And she became very matter-of-fact right afterwards and started making lists of what she had to do to ensure that her assets, her projects, her programs, and her operations were protected.
White House under fire. Former Ambassador Joseph Wilson talks to 60 Minutes' Ed Bradley about the outing of his wife, covert CIA officer Valerie Plame. First, here's what's happening. This morning, thousands of people are paying respect to Rosa Parks as the casket bearing her body lies in honor in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol. She's the first woman and one of only 30 people who have been so honored. Parks, who challenged segregation on a Montgomery, Alabama city bus in 1955, is credited with sparking a revolution in American race relations. Sunday, Parks' casket was taken up the steps of the Capitol by a military honor guard. Later, President Bush, First Lady Laura Bush, and Senate and House leaders participated in wreath-laying ceremonies. And the chaplain of the U.S. House of Representatives led the gathering in prayer.
Mrs. Rosa Parks, a leader in the community of Montgomery, Alabama, took her place on a historic ride. When her moment came, she would not be moved.
In Montgomery Sunday, hundreds of mourners gathered at Parks' former church for a memorial service, including the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Rosa Parks was arrested, ostracized, criticized even by some blacks in Montgomery. But she took a stand anyhow. There were big, burly, muscular black men that beat up everybody in the pool room, but they went and sat in the back of the bus. But Rosa Parks, less than 100 pounds, refused to move her seat. And because she didn't move, she changed this country.
Parks died a week ago at age 92. Later today, her remains will be taken from the rotunda and flown to Detroit. President Bush has ordered the flag to be flown at half-staff over all public buildings Wednesday, the day of Parks' funeral and burial. Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid says top presidential advisor Karl Rove should resign over his role in the CIA leak case. Rove has not been indicted, but he remains under investigation. Reid noted President Bush praised the former White House aide who has been indicted, Louis Scooter Libby, who stepped down as Vice President Cheney's chief of staff. Reid says the American people need to hear some different words from Mr. Bush.
He should apologize. The vice president should apologize. They should come clean with the American public.
Republican Senator Trent Lott of Mississippi is urging the president to shake up the White House following a series of setbacks. Lott says the Bush administration needs, in his words, new blood so it can move on.
To people out there in the real world, they want to know what are we going to do about the federal judiciary? What are we going to do about gas prices and home heating fuel prices and an agenda?
A new opinion poll shows 58% of Americans unhappy with the president's performance. Only 39% approve. As early as today, President Bush is expected to announce his new nominee for the High Court. Republican lawmakers are suggesting he pick a solid conservative. But Senate Judiciary Chairman Arlen Specter warns if Democrats perceive a nominee as too conservative, it could provoke a bitter confirmation fight and possible filibuster. He spoke to correspondent John Roberts.
Anti-Roe advocates are fighting very hard, but they're asking for too much. One of the top anti-Roe advocates last week said that they were looking for a guarantee. Use the word guarantee. Well, that's a word that you use when you buy a washing machine or a used car, not when you pick a Supreme Court justice. And in fairness, the people in support of a woman's right to choose are just as adamant in wanting to know in advance, too. So if both sides are pressing very, very hard, that could lead to a hell of a fight.
Senator Arlen Specter of Pennsylvania. Last week, we reported a grim milestone in the battle for Iraq. 2,000 U.S. servicemen and women killed since the invasion in March 2003. This morning, that number now stands at 2,018. A U.S. Marine is the latest casualty. He died Sunday after being wounded in a roadside bomb near Baghdad. Some human rights groups estimate the number of civilian casualties in the conflict to be 10 times that number. And now, under congressional pressure, the Pentagon has released its own figures. Correspondent Kimberly Dozier in Baghdad reports.
Some in the crowd are rapt with attention. But cellist Kareem Wasfi doesn't know if they're listening to him or their own inner nightmares. This is a psychiatric ward for those bearing the less visible scars of a seemingly never-ending war.
What we're hearing is a major part of our normalcy that we're experiencing, and it's very unfortunate. I'm sick of listening to sirens and bullets.
The American-trained cellist has only given one concert this year, and that required a small army of security. It's one snapshot of how daily life has been mangled by car bombs, crossfire, and curfews. With the chaos has come a growing sense of abandonment. Many feel the forces who came to save them from a dictator no longer care what happens to them at the hands of militants.
They only care about the Americans who have been killed here.
Under congressional pressure, the Pentagon has produced its first ever estimate of Iraqi casualties, some 26,000 since January last year. Though some experts believe the figure is much higher.
It's always the question of what they're telling us at any given moment. They've chosen not to be very specific about many of their estimates. I do think the best estimate of how many Iraqis have died since Saddam was overthrown is in the range of 30,000 to 70,000.
Iraqis don't know what to believe. Many even think the Americans are lying about their own casualties. With the daily attacks Iraqis witness, 2,000 plus American war dead seems too low. The only thing that's certain is that with each personal loss, Iraqis are getting harder to reach. Cellist Wasfi says the tragedy for him is seeing more and more people outside the hospital who look like those within. Kimberly Dozier, CBS News, Baghdad.
In Dresden, Germany, the city's famed Baroque cathedral has risen from the ruins 60 years after it and much of the city was destroyed by British and American bombers in the waning days of World War II. Some 60,000 people celebrated the Franz Kirche's reopening Sunday. The Lutheran cathedral was built in the 18th century and was once the centerpiece of the city. While the East German government later rebuilt much of Dresden, the cathedral remained a pile of rubble. To the communist government, the ruins were a propaganda tool. To many residents, it was a painful reminder of the cost of that war. It took 11 years and $215 million to reconstruct the cathedral. Almost two-thirds of the money came from donations, including a sizable amount from Britain and the United States. And we're back in 2 minutes. This is CBS News, Up to the Minute.
If the jobs on your to-do list have gotten a little too big to do, great news. Help is on the way from the name you already trust. The Home Depot, your best choice for professional installation. And now's the perfect time to have new hardwood, tile, or laminate flooring installed through the Home Depot. And the Home Depot has all the colors and patterns to choose from to suit your style. Professionally trained installers will make sure your beautiful new flooring is a perfect fit for your home. Now, for a limited time, you'll receive 10% off your flooring installation through the Home Depot. Call now to locate your nearest Home Depot store or go online to this website.
I have no complaints whatsoever.
I really felt I was being taken care of.
The Home Depot. We'll take care of the big jobs so you can get back to enjoying your weekend.
For more information, visit the Home Depot online at homedepot.com/install flooring or give us a call at 1-800-718-1164. Call now.
Hi, I'm here downtown to bring you...
Ambien CR is now available. Talk to your doctor. If you use Ambien, call today for your 7-day Ambien CR free trial.
The marriage was built to last.
You are so awesome.
But the house was built too small.
This is kind of awesome.
How long are we here?
For 1 year, sparks will fly.
This is not awesome.
I just want to make an omelet.
Oh, are you kidding me?
The drama will be real, but it won't save you any money on car insurance.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Why haven't you called Geico?
Hi, I'm here downtown to bring you...
Ambien CR is now available. Talk to your doctor. If you use Ambien, call today for your 7-day Ambien CR free trial.
It's 40 past the hour. How serious was the damage done by the leak that revealed the identity of CIA officer Valerie Plame? CBS's Ed Bradley looked into what exactly happens when a CIA agent is exposed.
It's a spy agency, and you don't expose people working for a spy agency. And no one knew that she was working for a spy agency until she was exposed.
Jim Marcinkowski is a deputy city attorney in Royal Oak, Michigan. But in the late 1980s, he was a covert CIA agent spying in Central America. Like all recruits, he was sent to the agency's top-secret training facility in Virginia, known simply as the Farm. That's where he first met a 22-year-old graduate of Penn State University named Valerie.
Back then, did you know her as Valerie Plame?
No, I didn't. All our class went just by the initial of their last name, so we knew her as Val P.
And you were Jim?
M.
He says the 36 members of his CIA class were a close-knit group that continued to see each other at class reunions. 2 years ago, when columnist Robert Novak put the name Valerie Plame into the public debate over the war in Iraq, Marcinkowski says it took him a few weeks to determine that it was Val P. who'd been compromised.
I found that particularly outrageous. It became very personal.
My classmates and I have been betrayed.
Marcinkowski was so angry he went public, something former agents rarely do, blaming the White House even though nobody's been charged with the actual leak.
We kept that trust in protecting her identity. So we held a particular trust for 18 years and never gave each other up. And when the White House did that, it was particularly outrageous because if I have to keep those secrets, they should be held to that same kind of standard.
As the investigation into who leaked her name got underway in Washington, more details about Valerie Plame's life emerged. She spent her early years in the CIA in Europe, where she received advanced degrees from the London School of Economics and the College of Europe in Bruges, Belgium. In recent years, she told people she worked at an energy consulting firm called Brewster Jennings and Associates. Robert Novak, the columnist who first printed her name, revealed that too.
And she listed herself as an employee of Brewster Jennings and Associates. There is no such firm, I'm convinced.
He was right. Even though the business directory Dun & Bradstreet had a listing for it in this Boston office building, Brewster Jennings and Associates was a CIA fiction, created to provide cover for agents like Valerie Plame. The problem, says Marcinkowski, is that exposing Brewster Jennings could lead foreign intelligence agencies to other spies.
There is a possibility that there were other agents that would use that same kind of a cover. So they may have been using Brewster Jennings just like her.
Valerie Plame was also exposed as a NOC, an agent working under non-official cover. That means she was not attached to a U.S. embassy or the State Department when she was working overseas, which would have provided some protection if she had been caught spying. In other words, she had no diplomatic immunity.
So when she was working overseas without official cover, a NOC, that was a more dangerous assignment for her.
Absolutely dangerous assignment. With diplomatic immunity, the worst that can happen is you get kicked out of the country. You don't have that kind of a protection when you're a NOC. You're out there, what they would call naked.
Out there like Hugh Redman, a NOC who was caught spying in Shanghai in 1951 and died after 19 years in a Chinese prison. To this day, the CIA denies he was an agent.
We give our most sensitive cases to officers serving under non-official cover.
Melissa Maley spent 14 years in the Middle East as a covert CIA operative, maintaining a series of fictitious legends or cover stories created by the CIA.
I conducted espionage. I went overseas. I recruited agents.
She left the agency 3 years ago and recently struck up a friendship with a woman whose career ran parallel to her own. Valerie Plame Wilson. Maley says Valerie Plame was working on important national security issues like keeping tabs on nuclear material and the world's top nuclear scientists.
She is an expert on weapons of mass destruction. These are the kind of people that don't grow in trees.
What do agents in that division do?
They're trying to figure out really the hard questions of who has the capability of obtaining and deploying a biological weapon or a chemical weapon. Who's doing it? What are those networks? What are the financial trails?
The CIA has yet to conduct a formal damage assessment of the leak. They wanted to wait until the investigation by the special prosecutor was over. But representatives of the agency have been to Capitol Hill to brief members of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees about the steps they have taken to, quote, mitigate the damage.
I think any time the identity of a covert agent is released, there is some damage, and it's serious.
Congressman Rush Holt, a Democrat from New Jersey, is a member of the House Intelligence Committee. He says some people Valerie Wilson came into contact with overseas, even those who didn't know she was a covert agent, could be in danger.
Have you had assurances that the agency is handling the fallout from this leak?
They have taken the usual procedures to protect the damage from spreading.
Is it possible that somewhere overseas someone has gone to jail because of this?
Sure, it's possible.
Possible that somebody lost their life?
It's possible. I don't know. There hasn't been any formal assessment. If there were and I'd been briefed on it, I couldn't talk about it.
And we'll have more after a break.
People love their hover-round power chairs.
You made me love you.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it.
I get embarrassed when people say they love me after I show them how much fun it is to get their independence back.
I love getting out of my house again, and boy, is it easy.
You made me love you.
Hi, I'm Tom Cruise, inventor of the Hover-Round. I can't sing, but I can guarantee you'll love what you can do in your Hover-Round.
I'm amazed at the people who say they love us just because we got them their Hover-Round at little or no cost.
I love Hover-Round because it did not cost me one penny.
Hover-Round is like riding around in an easy chair with wheels. You made me love you, and all the time you knew it.
People just love the round design. We say it's round for a reason, so you can turn and get through the narrowest door or hallway.
I love how easy it is to maneuver.
To find out more, call this number to get your free Hover-Round information kit.
You'll also love Hover-Round's exclusive pressure release system with lumbar support, 4-inch thick foam, and comfort ride inner springs.
Each time you fell in love with a Hover-Round and learned how to be independent again. Call this number to get your free Hover-Round information kit, which includes a free video and a free test drive certificate. A Hover-Round mobility specialist will also do a personal evaluation to find the perfect model for you. Call today and you'll also get this special comparison guide that tells you how to choose the power chair that's right for you. There's no obligation. Call now to learn how you may get your Hover-Round for little or no cost.
You made me love you.
Call 1-800-406-4141 today to get your free Hover-Round information kit. That's 1-800-406-4141.
High-speed police chases. His daughter was killed in one. Now he's on a crusade to stop them. Eye on America, tonight on the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer. Experience you can trust.
This week, when these neighbors got catty, the fur began to fly.
Have your neighbors become your enemies?
Think you've heard bad neighbor stories? Wait until you hear these. And the Royals begin their United States tour. We'll have a revealing look inside the lives of Prince Charles and Camilla, plus the Survivor cast-off and secret scenes you've never seen on The Early Show.
High-speed police chases. A crusade to stop them on tonight's CBS Evening News.
We return now to Ed Bradley's report.
Crime against the national security of the country.
Joseph Wilson is Valerie Wilson's husband. He's a career diplomat who served in Iraq for the first President Bush and on the National Security Council as an expert on Africa for President Clinton. In February 2002, he was sent by the CIA to investigate claims that Iraq was trying to buy uranium ore from Niger, a country in Africa where he'd once been posted. When he returned, he told the agency such a sale was highly unlikely.
The President of the United States.
But when the president said in his State of the Union address that Iraq was seeking uranium from Africa, Wilson accused the administration of lying to make a better case for war. That, he says, is why people in the administration came after his wife.
Valerie Wilson's cover was blown in July 2003.
We sat down with Wilson when Special Prosecutor Patrick Fitzgerald announced the results of his 2-year investigation, not charging the Vice President's Chief of Staff, Louis Libby, with leaking the name, but with lying and obstructing justice. Wilson says he believes someone in the White House was responsible for the leak.
It was the White House that decided that they were then going to go after me, and the tactic they decided to use was going after my wife.
Do you think that the prosecutor has gotten to or is getting to the bottom of it?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. The message was, if you do to us what Wilson did to us, we'll do to you what we just did to Wilson's family.
And the damage to Valerie Plame Wilson was serious, as spelled out by the special prosecutor.
Valerie Wilson's friends, neighbors, college classmates had no idea she had another life.
When you first met her, what did she tell you she did for a living?
She told me she was a risk analyst for an international firm.
But once you were married, you had to join this cover. I mean, you couldn't tell your family, your friends what you're...
No. The day that the Mr. Novak's article appeared, my sister-in-law turned to my brother and said, "Do you think Joe knew?" So not even my brother or my sister-in-law or any of my immediate family knew.
So no one said, I sort of suspected this all the time?
No.
Did that surprise you?
Not at all. Not at all. As Valerie points out, most people are interested in talking about themselves, and therefore it was very easy for a professional to shift the conversation away from her and onto other people.
When she saw Novak's column, he says it came as a complete shock. 18 years of a meticulously crafted cover exposed in an instant.
She felt like she'd been hit in the stomach. It took her breath away. She recovered quickly because, of course, you don't do what she did for a living without understanding stress. And she became very matter-of-fact right afterwards and started making lists of what she had to do to ensure that her assets, her projects, her programs, and her operations were protected.
Did she realize then that her career as an undercover agent for the CIA was over?
Absolutely, sure. There was no doubt about it in her mind, and she wondered for what.
Novak also published the name of the front company that your wife used for cover, Brewster Jennings and Associates. How would you characterize that disclosure?
I think it was abominable. When he published her name, it was very easy to unravel everything about her entire cover. You live your cover. And so you live Brewster Jennings. So she would have had business cards that said Brewster Jennings on them. So that was just insult to injury. That was just Mr. Novak taking a second bite of the apple.
Wilson confirmed that as a CIA agent, his wife was working to uncover information about weapons of mass destruction. Since she's still an agency employee, Valerie Wilson has been silent. Despite the fact it's been 2 years since she was exposed, the CIA still won't comment on the record about the damage.
Did your wife ask for protection from the agency?
I don't go into security matters, but you can be sure that we've discussed security at great length with various agencies.
Can you say whether or not there were specific threats?
There have been specific threats. Beyond that, I just can't go.
Former agent Jim Marcinkowski says one of the worst things about the leak is that it gives America's enemies clues about how the CIA operates.
She is the wife of an ambassador, for example. Now, since this happened, every wife of an ambassador is going to be suspected, or they'll know there's a possibility that the wife of a U.S. ambassador is a CIA agent.
We're talking about lives, and we're talking about capabilities. We do our work. We risk our own lives. We risk the lives of our agents in order to protect our country. And when something like this happens, it cuts to the very core of what we do. We're not being undermined by the North Koreans. We're not being undermined by the Russians. We're being undermined by officials in our own government. That I find galling.
Valerie Wilson still reports to work every day at CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. Friends say her status as America's most famous spy makes it impossible for her to remain in the clandestine service of the CIA, a place where she spent her entire working life.
Have you been in contact with her recently?
Yes.
What has this done to her? How's she handling it?
CIA people don't like cameras. They don't like publicity. They operate in the background as much as possible. So she's in a very, very uncomfortable spot.
So her career has definitely been damaged by this.
No, her career has been ended.
Ed Bradley reporting for 60 Minutes. You're watching CBS News Up to the Minute.
Employee pricing brought in more trades than ever before, creating an overstock situation at Vancouver Ford. We would rather offer these vehicles to the public for the same low price they would go for at auction. Over 200 used cars and trucks are listed at pre-auction pricing, like a 2000 Ford XLT Excursion 4x4, just $14,995. That's right, a 2000 XLT Excursion under 15 grand. Plus, get prices as low as $59.95. Pre-auction pricing, only at Vancouver Ford.
Put Chelsea on your shopping list. If you only go to the big box stores, you simply don't see that this option exists. When we put a system together, we understand exactly how it works, exactly how all the pieces fit together, and we can make a control system that's very simple. I have the very best products made. I also have to have things that regular folks can buy. I started this by myself 30 years ago. I want to treat people well, sell great stuff, and sort of get to feed my passion for great audio and video.
Talk about the lap of luxury. Just log on to Tonkin.com and shop our huge selection for the car you love without ever leaving the easy chair.
I just signed up for a watercolor painting class, and I need some supplies. Where should I go?
My son has a science project he needs to build. We need help. Where do I go?
I'm taking a drawing class at school, and I have a list of supplies, but I don't know what half the stuff is. Can you help me?
Art Media, your locally owned art supply stores with 30 years of helping creative ideas come to life. With 3 locations, Portland, Beaverton, and Clackamas. Art Media.
Today is Halloween, so this probably isn't the best day to try to convince your children candy and sugary snacks are to be eaten in moderation. Still, perhaps convincing them eating their haul slowly will make it last until New Year's Day might do the trick. In some schools, such lessons on eating right are part of the curriculum. Randall Pinkston reports.
I'm glad you're here. I was afraid you were going to...
At this private Harlem elementary school, today's lesson isn't reading, writing, or arithmetic.
Are you guys excited about beans today? Yeah!
That's right, beans. Instead of pizza and hamburgers on the run, the usual meal for many kids, this after-school program teaches about old-fashioned unprocessed foods and why they're good for you.
In this neighborhood, there's a lot of trouble with high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, children with diabetes.
Nationwide, childhood obesity is at an all-time high. More than 15% of children ages 6 to 11 are obese. 30% are overweight. For minorities, the percentage is higher. And many experts blame fast food.
When money's tight and time is even tighter, it's a lot easier just to go get something very quick.
Stand up straight.
This was Judy Jew's idea. She's a former Culinary Institute student and a volunteer tutor at the Children's Storefront School. She persuaded the principal to introduce the slow food movement, a nonprofit effort which teaches where food comes from and how it should be enjoyed.
What you put in your bodies really affects how you feel, and you are what you eat, essentially.
What do you sprinkle?
Cumin. Once a month, kids focus on a specific food. Today, it's the bean. And other lessons are mixed in.
We believe that children learn best when what they're learning about reading and writing and math ties into the real world. So we use every avenue.
Already, this slow foods class is inspiring some children to do great things. Do you think you might want to be a chef someday?
Yes.
Yeah? What about you, Kamari? What do you want to be?
My dream.
A chef?
My destiny.
Did you make that? Kamari's father says the class helps his son make better choices.
Of course, they want the junk food and the sugar, you know, so it's just getting him to eat a lot of vegetables.
The only beans that I know is peas and string beans. That was the only beans that I knew. But now I know like a whole 1,000 more.
It's the kind of lesson that slow food advocates hope to spread to other children, if only a bite at a time.
Good, right?
Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
By the way, if your family does get a lot of candy, do what we do. Bring it to work and just put it out on a table in a public space, and it'll be gone in seconds. Thanks for watching us. This is CBS News Up to the Minute.
For news 24 hours a day, log on to CBS News.
It's a haunted Halloween with Jane Kasmerick. Next, all New Ellen.
Now on CBS News Up to the Minute.
Because you wouldn't move, we won't move. And we won't be flattered into forgetting what you did.
A national call to remember the work of the woman who redefined the word liberty in America, Rosa Parks. And round two for the White House in its bid to fill the vacancy on the Supreme Court. Good morning. This is CBS News Up to the Minute. I'm Melissa McDermott. Even in death, Rosa Parks, the woman credited with sparking the modern civil rights movement, continues to make American history. She is the first woman to lie in state inside the U.S. Capitol. And Americans are streaming past her casket by the thousands to say goodbye. Aline Sergani reports.
It was a majestic moment Rosa Parks might have shied away from if she were alive today. But in her death, she was honored with a wreath from the president and fanfare befitting a queen.
We know in our hearts she liveth because it's people like her that will bless unborn generations.
Over the U.S. Capitol, the flag flew at half-staff as thousands lined up to get one last look at the mother of the civil rights movement.
I just wanted to teach my children about her and bring them up here so we could say goodbye and let them know how important she was.
Rosa Parks is credited with sparking a year-long bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. The year was 1955, at the height of segregation in the South, when she defied a bus driver's orders to give up her seat to a white passenger.
Rosa Parks continues to break barriers even in death. She is the first woman to ever lie in honor here at the Capitol and only the second African American.
She was a freedom fighter.
Thousands got a chance to pay their final respects to Miss Parks in Montgomery early Sunday. And following this stop in the nation's capital, she will travel to Detroit, Michigan, where she lived her final years, campaigning for a cause she believed in so deeply. Aline Sergani, CBS News, Washington.
All of Washington is poised for the president's latest pick for the Supreme Court. Politicians on both sides of the aisle spent the weekend guessing whether the nominee would be ultra-conservative, moderate, another woman. The only thing everyone agrees on is the candidate has to please his conservative base. Joey Chin reports.
After the political hits he took last week, the president is trying to start this week off on the right foot. But how far right will he go to soothe conservatives? Still smarting over Harriet Miers, his failed Supreme Court nominee.
The president will genuflect to the right, but not necessarily go in lockstep with the hard right.
Ken Duberstein was President Reagan's chief of staff and later worked closely with Michael Ludick, a federal appeals court judge who's said to be on President Bush's current shortlist.
He is the one person that I know on the outside who Supreme Court justices listen to when he speaks about the Constitution, because he's that much of a scholar.
Another appeals court judge, Samuel Alito, also gets a nod from conservatives.
I don't know Judge Alito personally, but from what I've read and heard about him, I think would satisfy the desire to have someone with an established track record.
The president could defy the odds makers again, as he did when he chose John Roberts for Sandra Day O'Connor's seat, and as he did with the Myers nomination. Emboldened by Mr. Bush's troubles, Democrats are firing warning shots as well.
If the president chooses someone who's an extreme candidate out of the mainstream, he's basically asking for a fight.
Alito and Ludick are the leaked names of the day, but reporters on the story have been tripped up plenty of times before. Right now, all signs point to the president giving the only answer that matters, his, as early as this morning. Joey Chen, CBS News, the White House.
As chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Arlen Specter will lead the confirmation hearings on whoever the president ultimately chooses. He spoke to CBS News Sunday.
It is my hope that the president will pick someone as close to Chief Justice John Roberts as he can. I think the better qualified the nominee is, the better the chance is of avoiding a very divisive fight. Our process is not to have the matter decided by press conferences and newsreels and on radio and TV talk shows, so that Ms. Myers never had a chance to present her case. What I'm looking for next time, I'm looking for an opportunity to convene the committee, to have